those of you listening online, we appreciate your participation. So Sherry, can you take a roll, please?
Yes, ma'am. Mayor Miller,
Here.
Vice Mayor Politis,
Here.
Commissioner Card,
Here.
Commissioner Conlon is excused, Commissioner Dembinski.
Here.
Thank you. Reverend Bob, can you lead us in prayer this evening, please? This is Reverend Bob, from the Drive-In Christian Church.
Thank you, Mayor. I invite those who are able to stand and join me in this invocation. Let us bow. Gracious and eternal God, we gather this evening with gratitude for the gift of community and the privilege of self-governance. As we gather, we seek your guidance to deliberate with wisdom, to act with integrity, and to serve with compassion. In this month of May, we pause to honor those who wear the uniform of our nation. We give thanks for the men and women of our armed forces, both past and present, who stand watch over our freedoms. As Armed Forces Day approaches, we recognize their dedication, courage, and the sacrifices they and their families make daily. We also look ahead this month to Memorial Day, a solemn occasion to remember those who gave their lives in service to our country. May their legacy inspire us to uphold the values for which they fought, of liberty, justice, and peace. Bless our mayor and commissioners with unity and purpose. May the decisions they make reflect the best interests of all residents of Daytona Beach Shores. Grant them the humility to listen, the strength to lead, and the resolve to govern justly. In your holy name we pray.
Amen. Thank you, Reverend Bob. Please stay standing and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Again, welcome. I see quite a few new faces here this evening. I just want to remind you of how our City Commission works. If you wish to speak on any articles that we will be discussing tonight, please get one of the agendas, see which item it is, and fill out a form that you can get from the back. And please present to our city clerk, Sherry, at the end. And if you wish to make a public comment on anything that's not on the agenda, that will be at the end of our commission meeting under item 14. So thank you again for joining. Today we have a presentation. We have an Employee Service Award. This is one of our favorite times. We have such fantastic employees here in the city of Daytona Beach Shores, and our very own Nancy Maddox has 5 years of service. So Nancy, will you come down?
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. It's an honor to be here tonight to award the 5-year service pin to Nancy Maddox. So Nancy, back in the very beginning of COVID, was hired as our recreation director, and she runs the community center. For those that don't know, Nancy runs a community center. I know you know this. She runs the community center and all the programs like our Armed Forces Day coming up. She runs the food truck events, all the programs here, her and her staff are in charge of. But in addition to that, Nancy also works on economic development, assists the mayor and I with legislative affairs. She travels to Tallahassee when we go to advocate for things. So Nancy's had a good 5 years, so congratulations, Nancy. I know you don't have
Ashley, can we get the whole council in there too, then?
Yeah.
Take a shot from behind. Thank you. Thank you. Congratulations, Nancy. We so appreciate you. know another thing, well, there's many things that Nancy does, but we're going to have an Armed Forces Day on May 17th. I'll talk about that a little bit later. But if you go to the concerts at the end of the month, it's Nancy and her staff that arrange those. They get the fantastic entertainment that we've had, as also as the food trucks. So if you see Nancy and her staff, thank them for that. And we only open that up to all the residents of Daytona Beach Shores. I usually do a hand, who's here from Port Orange, who's here from Ponce? And we get them from all over this area, and we're glad to be great neighbors and have them there. So thank you, Nancy, for doing that. Okay, next we're going to go on to the approval of the minutes. First of all, we are going to go to City Commission meeting minutes from April 1st, 2025. Do I hear a motion to accept those minutes as is?
I so move.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Sherry, can you take a roll, please? And for those of you that haven't been here for a while, we are now automated, so we do everything online. And this is probably a good thing that we started at this time, because Sherry, how many pages would you have had to print for everyone?
921.
921 pages times, I think, 7 of us up here. So we're saving the city a lot of money becoming automated. So Sherry, thank you. And that passed 4-0. Next, we had a special meeting on April 22nd, 2025. Do we hear a motion to accept those minutes?
I so move.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Sherry, can you take a roll on that, please? And that also passed 4-0. Right after we had that special meeting, we had a workshop that we discussed a lot of city issues. So right now, I'm going to ask for a motion to approve the minutes from the workshop.
Also move.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Sherry, can you take a roll on that one, please? And that passed 4-0. So next, we're going to go on to the consent agenda. On that, this evening, there are 6 items. Do I hear a motion to approve those minutes without pulling any? One moment, please.
Having trouble getting to that. I reviewed them before, so I also move. I don't want to push anybody.
Let's let Commissioner Dubinsky look at them first before we.
What? He didn't do his homework?
He did, but he.
I just want to verify that I actually did this.
I'm just joshing.
So just when I'm saying how good this automation is, we're now on to. And for you that don't know Chris is our IT manager.
Yeah, he needs to change his.
Can you help Commissioner Dubinsky
Yeah, that's,
again, please?
I'm okay now.
You're okay? Yeah. But we'd like you to be able to get back up with that. Okay, ready?
Yes.
Okay, so we have 6 items on our consent agenda. Do I hear a motion to approve all 6 items without pulling any?
Also move.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Great. Any discussion on any of the items? If not, Sherry, can you take a roll on that, please?
It's weird.
And that passed 4-0. Okay, next, we do not have any old business this evening, so we're going to move on to new business. Item A is public beach access for the dune walkover, and can we have our service director come up? And I just want to invite, I know most of you are here for this evening, but these are open to us. Become involved in the city, know what's going on. I'd love to see you here every month so you know what's happening. We have full transparency here. I also have coffee with the mayor once a month where any question is on the board to be answered. So please, get involved in your city. Commissioner, I'm sorry. Director Cruz.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. For the record, my name is Stuart Cruz. I'm the Community Service Director for the City of Daytona Beach Shores. This agenda item is concerning the public beach access dune walkover at 2901 South Atlantic Avenue. And essentially, staff is looking for direction from the City Commission as to how to proceed. Essentially, what are the next steps regarding this dune walkover? So just a background, and I apologize in advance, but there is some background that has to be established, and that's the reason why you'll see that this might be a lengthy presentation. So I apologize, and I thank you for indulging me.
Stuart, I asked you for all the information that you could get us, and you certainly complied, so thank you.
I appreciate it, Mayor. So the Tuscany Shores condominium was built in 2005, and in 2005, when the developer developed the property, they also dedicated a public beach access at the subject property, which is 2901. The developer's name at the time was Waterfront Properties of DBS LLC. So this was a requirement by the city's code to essentially have any new development on beachside, meaning a hotel or a multifamily residential condo, basically build a public beach access and dedicate it over to the city. And that would include a sidewalk from A1A to the beach, and then a dune walkover, or ramp as some people would call them, down from the seawall onto the beach. So in this particular case, a 7.5-foot sidewalk via public easement was from South Atlantic Avenue east of Tuscany Shores seawall was dedicated to the city. The easement partially traverses the Tuscany Shores garage, and I will probably explain later on as to why that's the case. So in addition to that, as I mentioned earlier, a dune walkover via a bill of sale was also dedicated to the city, and that was physically attached to the seawall by the developer. Although Tuscany condo had private access to the dune walkover, the city has been responsible for the dune walkover maintenance since 2005. So I do want to mention that in addition to the dune walkover that is there, and the connection to the public beach access sidewalk or walkway, Tuscany condo also had a private gate that they would have private access to the dune walkover as well. So the city has the option to not rebuild the dune walkover in the event that the walkover is destroyed beyond 25% of its construction value if an existing public beach access is located within 500 feet. And this is part of an agreement that was signed by the developer and the city in 2005. And I'll show you an exhibit of that in a second. If the city elects to not rebuild per above, the condo may reconstruct or may construct their own access at their own expense and cost. And this is part of the agreement that I will read out in a brief moment.
Mr. I just want to ask you before we move on, do we want to ask, well, I guess I should ask, if we have questions at the time, do you want us to stop now, or would you prefer we wait until the end?
At the end would probably be better,
All right,
unless it's really burning.
Okay.
So this is a Google image screenshot of the dune walkover in 2019 at Tuscany. And this is the reconstruction. This is a snapshot and a screen print of the dedicated reconstruction clause in the agreement that was signed by the developer and the city back in 2005. And I just want to read it out. And it's clause number 2 in this agreement. It basically says, Waterfront Properties of DBS LLC, the developer, agrees and acknowledges that in the event that the wooden ramp is destroyed beyond 25% of its construction value, the City of Daytona Beach Shores may elect not to rebuild and or repair the wooden ramp because an existing public beach access is located within 500 feet. In the event that the City of Daytona Beach Shores properly elects to not rebuild or repair the wooden ramp, and Waterfront Properties of LLC, DBS LLC, or its agents, successors, or assigns wish to have direct access to the beach from their property, they may construct their own access at their own cost and expense.
And Stuart, I think I see it on here. Can you read us the date of this, please?
So that agreement was executed on September 28, 2005.
Okay, so it's been in effect for 20 years?
Yes, ma'am. So as I mentioned earlier, ever since the dune walkover was built, it was and dedicated to the city was maintaining it. However, in 2016, there was a small gap in terms of usability of the dune walkover because Hurricane Matthew hit Volusia County and other counties in the state of Florida and essentially destroyed the dune walkover. The city's insurance provider did not offer coverage. The city did report the damage to FEMA. And for those of you who are not familiar with FEMA's reimbursement program, it is a reimbursement program that is a 75-25% cost share. Per Florida statute, the state of Florida covers half of the city's 25%, essentially all local governments, 25%, the state of Florida would cover half of that. The difference of 12.5% cost share is borne by the local governments. FEMA is a like-for-like reimbursement program, and it's only applied after a presidential declaration. So if the president does not declare a presidential disaster declaration, then the FEMA program, reimbursement program, does not apply. So I just wanted to mention that, and it is like for like. So the dune walkover replacement contract after Matthew was for $175,270. The dune walkover replacement was finally completed in 2018, 2 years after the storm. And the final FEMA reimbursement was received in September 2022. So basically 6 years after the storm, the city finally received that reimbursement. So essentially the city had to front that money up for not only that dune walkover, but other damages that the city incurred. And it's my understanding that for Milton, which is the most recent storm, that we basically had to front over $1 million from our reserves. So the city was ultimately reimbursed $153,361 for the Hurricane Matthew replacement. In 2022, Hurricane Nicole damaged the dune walkover. Emergency temporary repairs were performed. The insurance provider at the time covered damage up to the original cost minus a 3% deductible. The estimated damages per the insurance adjuster was $32,666. The city did receive $27,408 from the insurance company, and the city filed a claim with FEMA to cover the difference for that portion that was not covered by the insurance company, and to date, the city has not received a reimbursement from FEMA for that difference.
So we're 3 years right now.
Yes, ma'am. So the city did issue a bid to fully repair the dune walkover in 2024, because between 2022 and 2024, there were multiple issues with the dune walkover, and that's the reason why some people are probably familiar, those who are familiar with the dune walkover at Tuscany Shores were like, when is it going to be reopened? Well, we had actually repaired it, we reopened it, and then it got damaged again. So at least 3 times we went through that process. And so the city essentially put out a bid to fully repair the dune walkover in 2024, and the bids range from $36,000 to $221,000 plus.
I'm sorry, Stuart, so the bid you got, was that before Milton or after?
That was before Milton, and I'm going to get to that just in a minute. So just before the repair bid was finalized, Hurricane Milton further damaged the structure. And so this is a photo of Hurricane Nicole's impact. So the sticks that you see, the lines, if you will, the red lines represent the snaps and the posts that supported the upper dune walkover. And then this little this little square looking box here represents lost ramp that was destroyed by the storm. And if you look right up to the right of the box, you'll see that it looks a little bit uneven, and that's because there's uplift. So there was uplift on the lower and the upper portions of the dune walkover. And so whenever we do repair, whenever we receive substantial damage to any dune walkover in the shores, typically we're repairing not only posts and also actual ramp footage, but we also have to pull out those posts and have the contractor rejet those. So it's not usually an easy fix. So as I just mentioned, in 2024, Hurricane Milton destroyed the dune walkover, and I believe that was October 9th of last year. The city immediately boarded up the access to the dune walkover from the Tuscany Beach access sidewalk and installed barricades. The city engineer came out, I want to say maybe a few weeks later, and determined that the structure should be completely replaced and upgraded in its design. The damage was reported to FEMA, and it's uncertain as to whether FEMA will reimburse the city for reconstruction. As of October 1st, 2024, I did want to note that walkovers are no longer insurable by our insurance provider, or any insurance company for that matter. The city's continuing service contractor, Paul Culver Construction, provided a proposal to rebuild the dune walkover at Tuscany Shores at a cost of $247,104. I do want to underscore, however, that the proposal does not include design, surveying, or permitting costs, and in addition, the proposal was for basic standard design, so not the upgraded design that the city engineer requires. In addition, it would be an ADA dune walkover that this proposal is associated with, and Tuscany Condo, that is, did receive a similar quote at $264,000, and I've also heard numbers of $288,000. So basically, you're talking anywhere from $250,000 to $300,000 when you add in all the additional costs in today's dollars, and that's important because when we go through the city's procurement process and we actually award the bid, if we were to rebuild, if the city was to rebuild at this spot, because of inflation and other factors, the price might be beyond that.
Do you happen to know the bid that they received for this 264? Did that include design and engineering?
I do not believe so. But it may have. So the next slide shows the damage that was done after Milton. And as I mentioned earlier, typically whenever there's damage to a dune walkover in Tuscany Shores, there's usually post-damage. There's also ramp loss, and here you can see major uplift here. So all these posts would have to be removed, and they would have to be rejetted back into the ground. And just to show how massive this structure is, this is one of our building inspectors here, Josh. Hi, Josh, if you're looking. You know, he's about my height. Maybe, yeah, he's about my height, and look how small he looks compared to the actual structure itself. And then to the right is the post-demolition picture of the dune walkover being removed or having been removed from the site. And you might see some lines down here, and these lines are basically lines where the posts were actually attached to this whaler beam that you see running across the seawall here. And again, those bolts were actually the bolts where the dune walkover was attached was actually installed by the developer. So there are several options for the city's consideration, and some of the recommendations are straightforward and some of them are not. But, I'm sorry, not recommendations, but options for consideration. The first, obviously, is to rebuild with public beach access, with public access at the Tuscany location. So in this case, the city would rebuild ADA dune walkover at the current location and reopen to the public. Another option would be to not rebuild the dune walkover at Tuscany. And pursuant to the 2005 agreement, if the city were to elect to do that, then Tuscany may rebuild or may build their own private stairs or ADA dune walkover at the location. The other option is to...
Stuart, I'm sorry, and I have to.
No worries at all, ma'am.
Okay, so so if they were to do that themselves, would they have to get a DEP permit?
Yes, any construction east of the coastal construction control line in the state of Florida requires a DEP permit, whether it's a set of stairs, dune walkover, a shed. There's some sort of approval that's required by the DEP, and depending on the nature of the improvement, the Florida Fish and Wildlife and the federal Fish and Wildlife may also be involved.
And I assume county's going to be in there too?
Yes, and the county is there, yes. So the third option, as I was mentioning, Madam Mayor, Commissioners, is to build at St. Kitts Park. So if the city was to elect to build at St. Kitts Park, it would be a new ADA dune walkover at the park, and it's all subject to DEP approval, as I just mentioned. And in this case, the city would not rebuild a dune walkover at the Tuscany location because it doesn't make sense to have have two within the same proximity. Basically a building away from each other. In addition to that, the city would want to keep the public beach access easement over the property at Tuscany Shores for potential future use, and obviously if the DEP were not to approve the permit at St. Kitts Park for the ADA dune walkover that the city would want to do in this particular option here, then we would need to go back to the Tuscany option as a potential consideration. So the fourth option is to rebuild at Tuscany with no public beach access, and in that case, this would probably be the ideal situation for Tuscany, in the sense that it would not be reopened to the public, the city would vacate the public beach access, and the city would bear the cost of building the ADA dune walk over there at Tuscany. The fifth option is similar to the fourth option, but in this case, the city and the condo would cost share the cost of rebuilding that ADA dune walkover. However, this is something that would have to be done at a future date. The city and the condo would have to negotiate whatever that cost share agreement is. And if the city commission decides to move forward in that position, then obviously we'd have to bring whatever draft agreement staff and the condo would come up with to the city commission for a public hearing for the city commission to essentially vote on. And then the sixth option is any other option that's out there that the city staff has not considered.
So help me understand number 5. So we would cost share with them, whatever we worked out in negotiations, but we wouldn't allow it for public access?
Correct. And you know, this is an option
Okay.
for the city commission to consider. You know, obviously, the city commission, you know, has the ultimate authority to decide how to proceed, and staff is just presenting all the different options that are out there to be fair and to be transparent.
Okay, well, thank you for all of this.
So this is just a graphic view or summary, overview, if you want to call it, of the different options that are out there. If the city were to go ahead with option 1, meaning rebuild at Tuscany, public beach access would be granted. The city would have to have the ongoing costs of city maintenance of the dune walkover, and there would be a future risk, and that would be an unknown risk that the city would have to incur. And the initial construction costs or investment costs would be $247,104. And again, that's in today's dollars. It doesn't include engineering and a whole bunch of other things. And it's also, there's no guarantee that FEMA would be able to reimburse the city for whatever cost the city is going to put up front.
Because I do want to mention that if anyone read the paper this evening about.
Yes. There was an article in the paper about FEMA. Eventually, these programs might be going away.
So can you speculate, though, and I know you don't, just roundabout, what do you feel like engineering and the extras that you put in there that we would need? I mean,
So because the grade of the beach has moved back and forth, there would be a requirement for surveys. There would be a requirement for and surveys would have to be done before the engineering could be done. There's an engineering cost, and then there's a permit cost, because believe it or not, the state does not waive the permit fees for these types of, for local government projects. And I believe the last time that was $5,000. So if I were to take a guess in today's dollars, if we were to already have bidded this, my guess is it would be close to $300,000.
Thank you, Stuart. I don't know if you, well, go ahead. Have you gone to like number 3? I want to say,
Yes.
would those same costs be there because, first of all, I want to know, and you might have it here later on, I apologize. How high was the height of the ramp at Tuscany? Do you have that in here somewhere later on?
Yes, I do have it somewhere later on, but just so you know, for those who, want to know as well at this point, it's basically 20 feet. So 19.5 feet is what we actually measured it to be. But who knows what it's going to be whenever an actual survey is done, if there's another storm. We are in hurricane season, and that's, kind of one of the moving factors here. Whereas at St. Kitts, the height that this dune walkover would be, would only be around 11 feet.
So basically almost like half. So,
yes.
so would that have any effect on the surveying cost as engineering cost or permit cost? Would it?
Yes, it would make a difference. It would make a difference because you're dealing with a smaller footprint.
So that also would be lower.
Yes.
So much for holding questions.
So the third option, again, this is just a graphic overview of the different options. So if we were to rebuild or build a new ADA dune walkover at St. Kitts, there would be public beach access, there would be ongoing city maintenance, and there is also a future unknown replacement cost risk in the event of a hurricane. However, the initial construction investment costs, again, without all the other things that we just mentioned, would be $86,000. And then, I'm not going to go over the other 3, but the other 2 would mean that the city would vacate the easement and the new owner would be Tuscany Shores Condominium Association.
Okay, so for for the public well-being, so we would have the ADA in order to serve our residents, only 1 and 3 would be that, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And that will lead to the recommendation that I'm going to mention in
Okay.
a few minutes. So obviously, to make a decision, the city commission has to look at the surrounding area and the current site. And so the star is on this map here, represents the Tuscany condo. And here you see the Tuscany walkover on the beach. If you were to head north, just north of it is the St. Kitts Park, where there's currently a set of stairs. So if the city were to rebuild an ADA dune walk over there, you're essentially talking one building north of Tuscany. If you were to head up even more north, about 0.6 of a mile, there is a county beach access there at the Frank Brennan Park. And there was an ADA ramp there, and the ADA ramp is scheduled to be replaced there as well. In terms of the timeline, I have no idea, but there's also parking there as well at Frank Brennan Park. If you were to go south of Tuscany, there are 2 county access points, and the first would be at Bellemeade, where there's, I believe, maybe 6 or 7 stairs, concrete stairs there. Actually, Bellemeade right down at the end. I think everyone's familiar with that. However, and it's my understanding that the city would not be able, nor the county would be able to build an ADA dune walk over there because of some physical constraints. Just south of that, about 0.6 of a mile, is the Van Avenue Park, where there was an ADA dune walk over there. It was destroyed by Milton, and it's my understanding that the ADA dune walkover will be replaced. And there is parking there as well, and that's, again, as I mentioned, it's a county property, county park. So, considering all that, staff is recommending option 3, which is to basically build a new ADA dune walkover at St. Kitts Park based on the following. And these are the justification, if you will. The first is that the FEMA reimbursement to rebuild at Tuscany is not guaranteed. As I mentioned, it has to be like for like. It's my understanding that the condominium association would not want us to reattach to the seawall, and so that could create some problems. But there's no guarantee, regardless, as to whether or not FEMA would reimburse the city for that reconstruction there. And in today's dollar, the initial investment cost savings between when you compare building a new dune walkover, ADA dune walkover at St. Kitts versus Tuscany, it's approximately $161,000 would be the cost savings. This cost is based on a standard dune walkover design with 8-inch round posts, and the upgraded design, as required by our engineer, could call for a larger round post, which may increase the cost. So I'm mentioning that the difference right now is $161,000, but based on an upgraded design that the city engineer is adamant about, that number could actually go up much higher.
And instead of the 8-inch, I remember somebody saying 10 or 12.
Yes, the engineer, the city engineer has gone as far as to say that it might be more than that, meaning more than 8 inches. So you could be anywhere from 10 to 12 inches or more. Additionally, St. Kitts Park currently has basic amenities, and with the addition of potential new amenities, could become a highlight of the community. So over at Tuscany Shores, you have a 7.5-foot concrete sidewalk from A1A to the seawall, whereas at St. Kitts Park, and I'll show you pictures comparing the two, it is a wider beach access there. It is a park, and we currently have a picnic table. We currently have a grill. We have trash facilities, and we even have doggy bags. But in addition to that, in the future, the city may want to add additional amenities, and that could really spruce up the area and become a highlight for this area. So in addition to that, St. Kitts Park is only one building north of Tuscany. But even more so, the elevated structure at Tuscany would be approximately 20 feet high in the air, compared to a new elevated ADA structure at St. Kitts Park, which would only be 11 feet in the air. So considering that, the exposure and the risk relative to future development costs, replacement costs at St. Kitts Park is much less. In other words, if we were to build at Tuscany versus St. Kitts Park, the risk would be much higher in terms of having the replacement cost, because it's such a massive structure. In addition to that, the linear footage now, not just the height, but the linear footage of the structure at Tuscany would be approximately 288 feet compared to the linear footage of the structure at the St. Kitts Park, which would only be 110 feet. So almost 60% of the deck-in, of the footage, the linear footage of the ADA dune walkover at St. Kitts would be less, would be much less than what you would have to do at Tuscany. So because of that, the exposure and the risk at St. Kitts Park is much less when it comes to the replacement costs versus Tuscany.
Is that actually the name of the park, or is it unknown?
Colloquially and traditionally, we have referred to it as St. Kitts Park. The City Commission has not actually declared a name as yet. So other reasons why staff is recommending option 3, which is to build a new ADA dune walkover at St. Kitts Park, is because the property, the ADA dune walkover would have a shorter switchback design at St. Kitts Park, meaning the run, it's only 40 feet wide compared to Tuscany. The potential future impact, the potential for runaway wheel devices such as your strollers, such as your wagons, potentially even wheelchairs, would be much less at St. Kitts Park. Because if you look at the picture that I showed earlier, and I'll show you the picture again at St. Kitts Park, at Tuscany, you're talking over 100 feet of run, whereas at where something can get loose and potentially cause injury.
We're talking incline?
We're talking about the incline, yes. So when you step out to the dune walkover at Tuscany and you go all the way down to the first switchback, you're talking over 100 feet of run. So if something were to get loose, say, God forbid, a stroller or something like that with a child in it, or even a stroller with a child in it, it could create some serious injury. Whereas at St. Kitts Park, that run would be much shorter. It would be about 40 feet or less because the property is narrower and because we're dealing with a lower elevation as well. So in addition to that, construction at St. Kitts Park eliminates, and this is a good thing for Tuscany, construction at St. Kitts Park would eliminate the potential future impact on the Tuscany seawall and potential city liability. So in other words, whether it's attached or not attached, if it's a freestanding structure at Tuscany, when a storm comes, that impact that could be generated from the dune walkover hitting the seawall, that liability and that potential risk is eliminated if we don't build at the Tuscany property. So further, the city's structural engineer has opined that a freestanding dune walkover 20 feet high is more vulnerable to damages than one that is attached to a seawall support structure, and obviously one that is much lower. So another thing that I wanted to mention was that the Volusia County approach to ADA access on the beach is via permitting drive-in on the beach, 15 miles of drivable beach, including no charge for people with ADA access. So in other words, if you have a handicap permit, the county's philosophy is, hey, we got 15 miles of drivable beach. You don't have to pay. Once you have a handicap tag, you can go down to the beach and you can park and access wherever you need on the beach, as long as it's a portion of the drivable beach.
Is that for Volusia County only, or if I'm from Brevard County?
No, it doesn't matter. You can be from Wisconsin. And once you have an ADA tag, it's my understanding that the county will not charge you and they'll grant you access to the beach. And in addition to that, they won't charge you for off-beach parking. So at Frank Rendon, for example, Fenari, these are the places they're not going to charge you for parking. I promise you, I'm almost finished.
No,
I apologize. So the city's land development code, in addition, the city's land development code no longer requires public beach access for new development if one exists within 1,000 feet. So you may remember I mentioned earlier in the presentation that the reason why a dune walkover was a public beach access was provided to the city in 2005 is because the city's code actually required one. But now the city's code is saying if there isn't one within 1,000 feet, there's no need to install one at that particular site or development. In addition, if we were to build at St. Kitts Park, the city would maintain an ADA accessible ramp in close proximity to the former location. Again, just a building north or property north of Tuscany Shores. And finally, staff has looked at this and we have thought about this, and maintaining two ramps within such close proximity to each other would be costly, as I just mentioned earlier, But, you know, we don't believe as staff that it would be fiscally responsible to have two major structures within such close proximity to each other and having the city risk damage to both of them, in addition to the additional 13 that we have to maintain every single year whenever there's a hurricane. So that's a lot. This is an aerial view of the public beach access. To the north, you're going to see the St. Kitts beach access. And then in between Tuscany and the St. Kitts Park, obviously we have the St. Kitts condo. And just to the bottom here, you'll see just south of the Tuscany Shores condo, you'll see the Tuscany beach access easement. This next slide shows the actual portion of the access that's over the garage. So the portion of the walkway that's over the garage is not the city's responsibility for maintenance. It's the red portion that's not over the garage that is the city's responsibility in terms of the walkway. And this is articulated and agreed upon in the easement document that you see as part of your agenda packet today. The reason I say that is because I just wanted to make it clear that because sometimes we hear things that we're responsible to maintain the entire sidewalk, and that's not the case. The condo and the city, when they agreed to execute the easement agreement regarding the walkway, both parties did not want the city to have anything to do with the sidewalk over the garage, because underneath is their garage, and if the city were to mess something up, there could be all kind of infiltration, there could be concrete restoration work that would be needed. Essentially, it would risk all the investment that the condo would have within the garage, including people's personal and private property, meaning their vehicles and whatever else they have down there. So it was clearly articulated in agreement that the city would not be taking care of the sidewalk that's over the garage.
Hey, give me an example of what the maintenance is. Do we blow it off? Do we, if it's cracked, fix it? Probably not a lot.
There hasn't been a lot of maintenance, to my recollection, that the city has had to do on the actual sidewalk itself. Most of the maintenance that the city has been doing has been on the dune walkover, which is covered under the bill of sale and the addendum agreement that's associated with the bill of sale, not the actual easement for the walkway itself. So again, this is a picture of a screenshot from Google Maps of the dune walkover in 2018. You can see, again, it's very massive. And over to the right, you can see I believe Steve Edmonds, our building official, actually took this picture today. So thank you, Steve, for taking a picture. But you can see, there are some stairs right now, and the perspective doesn't show you the actual comparison in terms of and difference between the two. But we've already gotten surveys that actually show that from the beach to the top of the dune there, the dune walkover, that if it were to be constructed, is only about 11 feet.
And would it angle out to the right or left?
It would go, well, that's subject to the engineer's design. There's different options for design, but I don't want to be speculative on that because, that's in the realm of the engineer.
Do you have a question right now?
No, right now, I do
Okay.
have some, though.
All right.
So this is a street view of the two sites. On the left, you can see the Tuscan Shores beach access sidewalk, and on the right, you can see the St. Kitts beach access. And as I mentioned earlier, the park itself is 40 feet wide, and so if the city wanted to or elected to do additional improvements there, we certainly have the room to do so, whereas at the the Tuscany Shores beach access, there's no room for that. And this is just a location comparison with the following factors. So when you look from anywhere from amenities to safety, from staff's perspective, St. Kitts Park is the best option. So currently at St. Kitts Park, there are amenities, whereas at Tuscany there's none. There's potential for future amenities at St. Kitts Park, whereas at Tuscany there's not. The capital cost for St. Kitts is $86,000. The initial investment and construction cost would be $86,000, whereas at Tuscany, again, the city has to upfront this. There's no guarantee that FEMA would reimburse this, and that number is $247,000. In terms of convenience, the convenience would be improved because now you're not dealing with a narrow walkway, but you're dealing with a more spacious area. In terms of the FEMA cost share, if you were to do the math, the city would be on the hook for $10,750 at St. Kitts Park, whereas at Tuscany, it would be $30,888. Again, this is all today's dollars and assuming that FEMA would actually reimburse us, and there's no guarantee on that. And I say that for a reason, because there have been several disasters within the last month or so throughout the country, and presidential declarations have not been made. And so there's no guarantee that, and you just mentioned the article as well, there's no guarantee that FEMA is going to reimburse us for anything that we do at St. Kitts Park or at Tuscany. So the risk exposure, again, because of the size and the mass of the structure at Tuscany relative to St. Kitts, at St. Kitts it's low to moderate, whereas at Tuscany it's high. And in terms of safety, again, I spoke about the switchbacks, I spoke about the mass, the height and all that at the St. Kitts Park versus the Tuscany location. At St. Kitts Park, it would be improved. So as I mentioned earlier when I began, the reason why we're here today is because we want the city staff would like direction from the city commission as to how to proceed. And so staff came up with a decision guide, some people would call it a decision tree, as to how to move forward. So there's 4 essential questions that need to be answered. And the first is, should the city rebuild an ADA dune walkover at the Tuscany location? If the answer is yes, then the conversation's over. But however, if the answer is no, then we continue on to the other questions. And just for those in the audience who are not seeing it, the blue is staff's recommendation. And again, all of this is subject to FDEP approval at both locations. So that's the first question, City Commission. Does the city rebuild the dune walkover, the ADA dune walkover Tuscany? If the answer is no, then the second question is, should the city go ahead and vacate the easement? Staff is recommending no for that reason. No, because there's no guarantee that the DEP is going to approve the permit for the ADA dune walkover if that was the direction that the City Commission wanted to go at St. Kitts Park. So the city staff would recommend that we do not vacate the easement until such time that we know for certain that we can move forward at St. Kitts Park. And so the third question is if we do not rebuild at Tuscany Shores condo, do we rebuild elsewhere or do we not? If the answer is we do not rebuild elsewhere, again, the conversation's over, but if the City Commission wanted to rebuild somewhere else, where is that location? Staff is recommending that we do rebuild somewhere else, and that location is at the St. Kitts Park. And again, this is subject to FDEP approval, and that is our recommendation. So if there's any questions for staff, I'll be happy to answer those questions, and I don't know if the city manager would want to say anything at this moment.
No, I'll just participate in your questions.
And so how I'd wish to proceed right now is I want us to ask all the questions of our director that we can, and then I'm going to open up to public comment. So I want you to ask whatever questions, and then also on this decision tree number 4, they gave us 5 different options. If you have another option besides what they gave us, I'd like to hear about it at that time. And I think I have a lot of comments, probably more than Stuart, his speech even was. So I'd like to start with Commissioner Dubinsky and then go on down for our questions.
Stuart, I have sort of a string of questions, but the first question is, do we have to build any ADA ramp at all back?
At the Tuscany location?
At any location?
At any location? No.
Okay.
That is my understanding. However, if we do rebuild where there was previously an ADA dune walkover, we have to rebuild an ADA dune walkover.
As an ADA, okay. But we do not, we have the 2 ADA walkovers within a half a mile each side. Okay. The second question is, I live on the ocean. My condo has its own steps that we pay for, and there is a walkover close. I mean, a ADA ramp. But these ramps go to sand, most of the time soft sand. So the people, in the 25 years I've lived there, most people that I see using the ADA ramp are strollers, beach buggies, bicycles, not a lot of people in wheelchairs, because if they get down there in a wheelchair, it's hard to maneuver through the sand. And you said that any handicapped placard from anywhere in the United States or wherever gets free access to the drivable beach.
That's my understanding.
So probably common sense says most people in a wheelchair that want to enjoy the beach, unless they have the big wheelchair, the rubber ones, they're going to drive. They can drive on the beach for free.
Yes.
That's all I've got for now.
And I just wanted to clarify that the location map that I showed with the two ADA dune walkovers at both county locations, those are destroyed and they haven't been replaced as yet.
But they are going to be.
scheduled- Yes, they are scheduled to be replaced.
You know, one of the things before I go on here, I just want to commend both Stuart and our city manager. So when they're talking, first of all, for this wonderful presentation, but I can't tell you about the hours that they have spent, you know, going over this, calling the county and saying, when do you plan on building this again? How about Bellmead? Is that a viable option? You know, just, I know you've done your due diligence and gone and overturned everything that you can. So I just want to say thank you for that.
Thank you, Mayor.
Commissioner Kern?
I spent several hours there with the city manager on Friday. Saturday, I drove down onto the beach and I looked at it. So I'm pretty versed, I know what we're looking at. It just comes down to what is the most feasible for the city as far as monies and see if we can compromise. But I think I'm pretty well aware of what's going on here with this, so I don't have any questions.
Vice Mayor?
Thank you. I agree with Commissioner Dubinsky. The questions I had was, are we obligated? Do we have to make one? And I think by not making one, there's less for us to maintain, less money we have to spend of the citizens' tax dollars, and then, of course, no risk. Especially if the county is subsidizing ADA access and we already have existing ADA things. You know, there's a lot of people here, and their concerns, the Tuscany owners or people that use that approach, people that use the St. Kitts, and, you know, everyone has a justified position, but, you know, your presentation puts together both fiscal as well as common sense responsibilities and then anticipating the future. So, you know, I respect that, but Mel's back there. Former Commissioner Lindauer, he has the southern part of the city, and I take the northern part, because we're the walkers, and sometimes we'll meet in the middle and say hello. But I walked, and I've walked both Tuscany as well as St. Kitts and Frank Rendon and of course the Florida Shores. And Commissioner Dubinsky as well as Commissioner Card, you know, who uses it? How much frequency? And of course, you're going to spend money as a city, but you want to spend the money to maximize, what's the word, the utility for the citizen. So if we don't see a lot of citizen, okay, we'll accommodate the people that come and visit, but I'd rather take that money, earmark it, and do something more positive for the citizens, you know, things, other things that we have to maintain, improve, and control and stuff. But as the mayor said, your analysis and your preparation, it's very concise, very common sense, and I applaud you and your staff for putting it together.
Okay, so right now, we're just going to ask you questions. After we hear from the audience is when I want a discussion. So I know you know me, so time for the questions. Is there any guarantee that we would get FEMA reimbursement at either location?
No.
Okay, no guarantee, okay. So when we're looking at it, we have to make the assumption at that last page that you said that we're looking at 86 plus cost or 247 plus cost. I mean, we have to assume that, or nothing, or nothing.
Correct.
Okay, or nothing. Let me ask you this, at the St. Kitts, you know, we are a city that has really never reached out our hand. We've never gone for appropriations until last year. And, no, I don't think, city manager, can you help me? Have we ever, I know we asked for one ECHO grant and we didn't qualify. Have we received ECHO in the past? Okay, we did for the park. So anyway, we don't take full advantage. Let me ask you this. If the ECHO would be able to apply for that at both locations or only St. Kitts?
So it's my understanding that
you can't really.
we could apply for the St. Kitts location and not for the Tuscany Shores, but I'm not the expert at that, the ECHO grant program here.
Okay, I don't know if Nancy is either, but the little bit I know about it is, I'm thinking some of the amenities, and you didn't mention what the amenities are, but one of the things I want to ask you, I have a nice gentleman that lives in, I think he lives in Clover Lake, that is always asking me, can we get to wash our feet? You know, when we're coming off the sand, and I know you didn't specify what amenities. Is it possible that we
At St.
could?
Kitts Park?
At St. Kitts.
Absolutely.
Okay, we could get it, okay. So that's that. Okay, so talk about the one at St. Kitts. So I know you're saying at Tuscany it would be freestanding. Explain to me how it would be structured at St. Kitts.
So essentially, it would not be bolted or attached to the seawall. I'm sorry, at St. Kitts you're saying?
Yeah. St. Kitts.
Oh, okay. So I really can't answer that question, Madam Mayor, because this would be an engineering question. The engineer would have to look at the survey, look at the site, and come up with a design that meets ADA accessibility standards relative to the site constraints that we have there. But more likely, we would have to, move the rocks out of the way and basically have whatever design the engineer comes up with match the property and then reinstall the rock revetment there.
Okay. All right. I'm about ready to call everyone up. One of the things I want to tell you, I've heard from several of you, and I appreciate you reaching out to me and the rest of the commission that you have this interest here. But please do your due diligence and check your facts before you call. I got one that said the county has a lot of money. You can get money from the county. Wow. I've been trying forever, for the beach renourishment. So the county has no money to give us for this. And then also, I'm trying to get extra sand and whatever we can. The city manager and I have been up to Tallahassee. We've had the governor come here. The state actually has no money either. So make sure when you say you can get this, you can get that, we don't know that. So I am so big on checking facts and make sure when you're giving us information that you're giving us the correct information, because we do double check. So right now, Sherry, do I have the forms? Oh, they're on there? Okay.
You look at the speakers, just tell me who you'd like to try.
Okay, thank you. Try to go in order. We have 9 speakers. And if you have not been in one of my meetings before, I allow full access to anyone that wants to talk. So right now, if you're hearing someone talking, you thought, well, I wish I would have signed up, by all means, go back and get the form and give it to our city clerk. So first, we have Mike Keys. And Mike, so you will have 3 minutes. Please just give us your name and address. We'd love to hear from you.
Mike Keys, 2936 Oceans Trace. And revise this a couple times here.
And Mike, since we have so many speakers, I'm going to try to stick to 3 minutes, but I know you didn't even start, so don't worry about it.
Yeah, it'll be quick. So thanks to the commission for having allowed me to speak. Again, my name's Mike Keys. I'm speaking as an advocate and vice president of the HOA at Townhomes at the Oceans. And I think that we were just asking to develop a plan. I appreciate the presentation. It was very complete. And I think that we're just in a position that we hope to develop a plan to preserve our nearby ADA access ramp to the beach. This ramp is not just a facility for the disabled. It's a vital resource for everyone who finds the steep stairs challenging, including families with strollers and young children. It ensures that our seniors and disabled individuals who don't drive can continue to enjoy the beauty of our beach. Removing this ramp would not only reflect poorly on our city, but also contradict our cherished motto, life is better here. I'm confident that you share my concern for our community's well-being and urge you to support the replacement and long-term maintenance of this important ramp. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Mike. We have Brian Dodge.
Good evening, folks.
Good evening, Brian.
I'm Brian Dodge. I live at 2940 Sea Circle. I'm here tonight with my wife, Mary Ella, and no doubt a zillion compatriots from Townhomes at the Oceans. I want to thank you very much, and especially this gentleman, for doing a fantastic presentation. It gives me some great relief to know that there's not a frivolous approach to replacing this thing. I've been here for 25 years, which isn't a long time, but it's probably longer than most. And to my recollection, there's always been some kind of an ADA access across the street from Oceans West Boulevard. So I would ask you tonight to seriously consider returning the ADA access, be it at Tuscany or Kitts. The gentleman made a very, very promising proposal to Kitts. Myself, I would vote for that. But to expect us as citizens to then travel either south or north to the ADAs that haven't been replaced yet, I would say is an unreasonable expectation to be thrown in with all the other people from Wisconsin or wherever. You'd be inhibited from getting in your car, driving there, looking for a place to park on a busy weekend. So, in reasonable proximity of where we live, with walking distance to the current location, would be the same to kids. And it would allow us to walk to the beach, and for those of us that need ADA access or to get a bicycle, crutches, or cane down there, it would be the thing to do for your citizens. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brian. Barbara Bova.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. Barbara Bova. I am a new owner at St. Kitts, and I'm grateful for the current access at St. Kitts Park. And after hearing the discussion tonight, one of the things that I think that should be considered when we're saying ADA access, is it really for ADA, or is it for people that want to bring strollers down and bikes down, etc.? And my husband happens to be disabled, and you know, ADA access would be a blessing, but you know, I don't see it as being absolutely necessary, at least in our case. But one of the things, the idea that I wanted to bring up, that would be that at the existing location at St. Kitts, why we couldn't put at least some handrails on that structure, because that would be helpful to somebody like my husband, who's not in a wheelchair, but you know, going up and down the steps is a problem. You know, it would be great for children too, who can't reach up there and grab that wooden rail. And it would also be good for, you know, somebody like myself who's getting older, fit, but, you know, worries about going up and down those steps. And I think my husband made a little note here, which I wasn't gonna say. He was talking about, why would you tear down an existing structure at the St. Kitts location and build an ADA access when you have that a little bit further up the road? So you've just finished a structure there, and now you're gonna tear it down and build something else. So that's what I've got to say. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Barbara, and normally when we have people come up here, we don't ask questions, but I'm not sure which structure did we just buy? Did we just build?
Isn't the structure at St. Kitts is recent, right?
Yes.
Just finished. Right.
Okay,
So
so
it
the,
would be
But it's just stairs.
it's just stairs.
just stairs, but
Okay. So one of the options, so again, you know, we're going to discuss this in depth, but if we want to have an ADA, you know, it would require, I would love to have said, okay, when we first build it to an ADA. Circumstances changed.
so I guess my
just wanted to make sure I
request
understood.
is that you put some handrails in there in the meantime, and, because it's probably, nothing's gonna happen quickly. Thank you.
Thank you. Mary, the last time the clock was at 3:20.
Right, I just wanted to let you know, Madam Mayor, I'm not sure why the timer showing on the display has 2 extra minutes, but the timer on my computer is truly just 3 minutes. And so if it gets down 2 minutes up there, it goes away, meaning their 3 minutes is over.
Okay, great. All right, thank you. I hope everyone got that. So Donald's, is it Stegall? Stegall? Did I say it correctly? You did. Okay, great.
I answered anything. First of all, I had a speech prepared, but the presentation kind of blew it out of the water for me. I do have a question, a couple questions if you don't mind. I thought we were going to have a question and answer at the end. But one of them had to do with the ramp. They said it's 11 feet, and if I remember correctly, it's 1 inch high, it's 1 inch out, which means it's gonna be about a 132-foot ramp. Where is that ramp gonna go at St. Kitts? And is that an easement, or is that actually owned by the city?
The city does own it, and again,
Okay.
normally at city, you know, and I'm changing the rules a lot here. Normally you come up and this gives you your 3 minutes to talk to us, and we really don't answer questions. But I think this is a little bit different that I want to do that. We do own the property.
Okay.
So it's not an easement, and I'm sorry, the other question was about?
Well, I guess the other question is, do you need an easement from either St. Kitts or that new home that was built on the left side of St.?
We own the property.
You own the property, so it wouldn't.
No, everyone in this room owns the property.
Okay.
The city owns it, so that's
That's a
everyone.
pretty
in the room.
big-
So you own that, Don.
Okay. And the other thing I wanted to just mention, again, I had a real nice presentation here, but it's not going to work. The safety issue of where St. Kitts is right now. That's a pretty bad corner. That's something you may want to look at. It has a curve right there, and I think we've had some accidents there before, maybe even fatalities. But you're going to have people trying to cut across the St. Kitts, and the actual lit-up crosswalk is down about 300 feet, about the size of a football field. And I'm not so sure that's going to lend itself to a safety, but that may be something you want to look at as a safety aspect of people trying to get to the St. Kitts.
And thank you for that feedback. So that is a state highway, and they determine where they are. I don't know why it was put there. I think we've talked several times about moving it up, and just the way the intersection is and trying to get in and out, it is not feasible. So, yes, if your safety is that important, you might have to walk the 300 feet if you're coming up, is that called Oceans West?
Yeah, I'm talking about from across the street.
So you might have to, sit in your mind, I would walk the 300 feet for the light, go and go up. So once you're going up, so you either, will go to Tuscany, or you'll go up one building and go to St. Kitts.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Jonathan Langford.
Hello, I'm Jonathan Langford. I'm at 2855. I'm in the St. Kitts building. Thank all of you for your presentation. And I just have some more thoughts. I mean, the first one that I would say is that crosswalk issue that you're talking about. They cross there all the time, and it's because that St. Kitts is the only one that is open. And that crosswalk that is there, the lights aren't currently working. They haven't for a while, but it's certainly closer to the Tuscany building. Some other thoughts that I will give you is that, an abandoned easement in the city at all is certainly not a good message to be sending. And the way that they'll abandon it, if it's anything the way it looks now, which is just a sign, closed, it's just not a good look for your city. I mean, it's not. I can't imagine that if you're going to abandon it, just give it back to Tuscany and take down the wall and let them have it. But to have a closed here, I mean, it's, amenities. The amenity is beach access. That's the amenity. And we need as many of them in this city as you can get, because the beach is what really survives the city. That's why all the condos exist. We do have reserves, or I say you have reserves, but that's what they're for. This was, all of those people at Tuscany, which I feel sorry for, that's what they, bought that building predicated on. It's what they've been paying taxes the last 20 years predicated on. And I just can't imagine, them saying, okay, we're just going to close this off, and it's just going to have a closed sign. And, I mean, we all know what cities look like whenever they have abandoned areas. It's just certainly not a good message, and it's not a life is better here message. Hey, I'm very proud to be a resident of this city, and I think you guys have done an amazing job. And I know you're going to continue to do so. And having abandoned areas, they're saying, hey, close, no trespassing, don't come back. That's not, I mean, there needs to be a better alternative than that. So if it's take down the wall, take it away, give it back to Tuscany, my personal belief is there needs to be something built back there with access for those people across the street, for that crosswalk access that is better. It may save a life at some point by not having one, period. And I know there's no guarantee that FEMA will pay, but that sounds like that money's been applied for. There's no guarantee that they won't pay either. So, you know, I mean, I know it took 6 years, but you did collect. And then I also agree that you're taking a finished park now that, you know, is already starting to have some problems. I mean, you have people pulling up there in their golf carts and parking on the city grass and going to the beach and kind of dropping off stuff and going back. I mean, they're, you know, I'm just not sure that we need more access, not less access. You know, I'll say that, and I just think it's just very, very important. You know, as far as your developer, you know, I don't know why. You know, I mean, I understand that it was a requirement on them, and that probably predates maybe your service here, but, you know, that access was an agreement the developer at his cost had to put in order to get the approval for that building. And the city agreed to take it on. Now, I know that there's some numbers here that have kind of gone out everywhere, but we had repair costs from $36,000 to $221,000, but, you know, it's already torn down. So I don't know how or at least that's what was in the presentation, you know, that 25% number at the low end may have worked, but now it's gone. So I'm not sure, you know, I don't know. But I'm saying that I think there needs to be a stairway at the minimum, you know, put back. And if you're going to abandon the easement and just hold it for future use, you know, I don't think that's a good sign for the city. And then lastly, I would say if you are going to give it back to Tuscany, I'm not sure how fair it is to take an easement from them and then leave it from them in its current condition. You should at least have to put it back to a reasonable condition. And whenever you add up all those costs, it winds up being more feasible to just put something back. So that, you know.
No, wait, are we talking the easement or the ramp?
Well, I'm talking about the easement that, you know, that front portion that is taken, you know, there's a wall there. And so something's going to have to happen with that. It's either going to be abandoned and say closed, you know, don't come here anymore, which is just an eyesore, or, you know, you're going to hand it, if you give it back to them completely, is that the city's portion is just going to stay there with that wall that doesn't tie to that building? I mean, you know, that's not the way, you know, that's not the way site plans are designed. No one would have designed it that way. And whenever it's finished, it doesn't need to look like an afterthought. It needs to look like it was planned as a part of that building. You know, and I would say that I don't live in Tuscany, but I'm saying that, you know, if you have a new building that's coming in, your design plan is not going to include an abandoned walkway beside of it. It's not. It's not going to include an abandoned wall. And if you're not going to take it back, you're not going to, you know, cover it, then you should have to put it back. Take the wall down and say, okay, it's yours. We no longer have an easement at all. But don't just leave it with a, you know, closed, no longer open for business sign. That's my hope.
Okay.
Is that for the city.
Thank you, Jonathan. Yeah, okay. Can you ring the bell?
No, I didn't. I will ring the bell.
Okay. Thank you. I just want to make sure we get to everyone. So, so Nick Marino.
Hi.
Hi, Nick.
I'm Nick Marino. I live at Tuscany Shores, and I want to congratulate Mr. Langford. That was an excellent presentation. And I also want to congratulate your gentleman, Assistant Stewart. He did a great job. He hit a lot of points. I walked on the beach today, and I looked at our wall, our seawall, and frankly, it's in total disrepair. It's really horrible. And I said to myself, geez, in the presentation, he didn't mention one word about repairing the seawall that the construction company, frankly, without our permission, put these rods and bolts into the seawall. There's rust marks coming down, the paint is peeling. It just looks horrible. If you look at the other condos south of Tuscany Shores, all their seawalls, if you're on the beach and you look at, oh, beautiful, oh, great, beautiful building, and then you get to Tuscany Shores, we look like, what happened here? What is this? It looks like we're still recovering from Hurricane Milton. So in his presentation, he did not mention anything about the cost. Are you going to repair our wall, paint it, make it look like it was before the construction company came in and decided, without our permission, to stick bolts into the seawall? That's my first question. The second question is the easement that we just heard all about. I would like to know a time frame with your St. Kitts decision or the Tuscany Shores decision. How long is it going to take to find out when you could do construction and when you're going to abandon the easement? And are you going to return it to us, Tuscany Shore, in some kind of reasonable condition? Are you going to help us with the construction? We'll plant grass, we'll make it really look beautiful with our building. But at this point, if you're just going to leave the wall and with a sign, like Mr. Langford said, do not come here, it's going to look terrible for our building, for our real estate investment. And you know, when we bought our building, one of the features of the building was the access to the beach. And that is no longer available to us. And if you're going to say to us, oh, Tuscany Shores, we're not going to give you access to the beach, we're going to move it down the beach, so sorry. Well, are you going to return the property that we gave you back? Some kind of stairway? Are you going to contribute to help us get our, at least access to the beach, our private access? Thank you. Like the other condos. And I thank you for your time. Thank you.
Jim Gephardt.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Jim Gephardt. I live over Tuscany Shores too, and like Don, my presentation kind of got shot out of the water. I mean, with a lot of the things we heard tonight, but I was just kind of curious, and yeah, we definitely need a ramp. I see what's going on. I got 270-degree vision with where I live there to the highway and the beach, and everybody trying to drag everything on wheels now. These stairs are not working. Everybody's trying, it's a safety issue. Somebody's gonna get hurt there, seriously, and I don't know who's gonna be responsible then at that point for somebody having some medical issues or something. So a ramp needs to be put somewhere, definitely. But I guess my concern is, you know, and after hearing everything tonight, you know, it looks like you're pretty well set on Kitts there, putting a ramp in on Kitts. And I mean, I wasn't sure. You have complete access to put a ramp in front of Kitts there?
We own the property. But right now, we will put in a DEP, the final decision. So after we make a decision tonight, we would have to apply for a DEP permit. You know, as Stuart said, anything that gets built on that beach needs a DEP permit. So with approval of a DEP permit, normally the county will go along and approve that. So that would give us the ability to do put it there, not until DEP approves it.
Okay. I didn't know if, you know, if you needed to get permission from Kitts to actually put it there, if you would use, you know, eminent domain to just say, we're gonna take this here regardless, and you're gonna have to.
We're not taking anything from them. The property that you're talking about is wholly owned by the city.
Okay. And then the only other thing I would recommend is wherever a ramp goes, build it with the force that we get with hurricanes down here. It needs to be cement. I don't care what you say, it needs to be cement pillars. Once your pillars are gone, the whole ramp goes. And you're gonna be revisiting this. That's just gonna be an ongoing procedure with any kind of wood you put in there. I mean, it just does not hold up.
And unfortunately, that is a DEP permit. So, I mean, several of the condos have tried to do that, and it didn't end up. So, good idea, but no.
I know, you're hitting your head against the wall, but
Right.
that's the only way this problem's finally gonna be solved, is you have to build something to take the force of what you're dealing with here with these hurricanes. Otherwise, you're gonna be revisiting this and spending money every other year on it. It's gonna be a never-ending battle.
We are, because it's all of the city's money. Thank you. Thanks, Jim, for coming up. Bernadette Walsh.
Jeanette Walsh from Cloverleaf North. I'm here in support of a handicap ramp. Even whether it's at St. Kitts or Tuscany, we need to have one. Not everybody is in a wheelchair who is handicapped. That was very disingenuous of you to say that. There are people walking around with Parkinson's or autism who are not in a wheelchair. And they're not lugging wagons or chairs. The other thing I'm hearing is money, money, money. And I'm looking at these, what you've got, 20, 30 trash cans out here you bought from Uline. Price them on Uline, they're $1,000 a piece. They are not storm resistant. So you keep talking about the money for the ramps, and I see you just buying whatever you want without any consideration for other things as well. So that's all I have to say, is that we are in support of the ramp for the handicapped people. We need 2 accesses because they both were out and that nobody could get on. So if you build a ramp at St. Kitts and that's gone, where else is somebody going to get on the beach? They can walk up to Rendon Park or drive up to Rendon Park or drive down to Van Avenue. The Belmead entrance, while that might have been a couple of steps at one time, it now has wooden steps at the bottom of it. The steps going down at St. Kitts right now are so steep, that picture is very deceiving. So I think the whole presentation was geared to try to convince all of the people here, the will of the people. Remember that slogan, Nancy? Remember when you were first running?
I do.
You're here to support the will of the people. This is the will of the people. We want a handicap ramp. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Rich Montbrun.
Hi, my name's Rich Montbrun. I live at Tuscany Shores. I would love an opportunity to go point by point through what Stuart went through, because there's some challenges with what he presented. I'll table that for now. We got here because of Milton, number 1. Number 2, we aligned with the city to fix that ramp. We have a contract together with the city, the bill of sale, and a contract with the city to tear off that ramp and rebuild it. We have a contract that says we are to work together on the joint solution. Line item 7. So, questions. The option 3 that Stuart recommended, and I love Stuart as a human being, does not align to our contracts. It doesn't align to our Tuscany's desires or interests. It doesn't align to our neighbors' interests, our city's interests. Why? 1, does the recommendation meet the spirit and letter of our agreements? We've already established that. No, it does not. 2, does it align to history or precedent? No. Stuart presented that we replaced it every single year for 20 years. Does it make beach access safer? Isn't that what it's all about? Safe access to the beach? I would argue no, because the crosswalk is now going to be 1,300 feet away from the nearest access point. Behind Oceans, that new Oceans development, Oceans 25, there's not even a crosswalk, there's not a sidewalk. I've watched 2 people die on camera that I had to provide to the police. I've seen pedestrians get hit. We need none of that, right? We need safe access. Is it less costly? No, it's not less costly. It's actually more costly. I'll prove that to you financially. Happy to do that. I don't have time to walk you through it. It's either a wash or it's actually less cost based on the FEMA money. And yes, the FEMA money is going to be there. President Biden, like him or not, he approved it, right? He approved that the Hurricane Milton was a natural disaster. So that's off the table. What about statute? This is the most important point. What about statutory and regulatory compliance? That's really important. We're talking about it's ADA. This is not controlled by the city. And yes, you do have to rebuild an ADA ramp. There is no option. I believe that's inaccurate, and we can check that, okay? Number 1, that the city does not replace the ADA ramp, it unnecessarily puts all past and future FEMA funding at risk. Accepting FEMA disaster money must be used to maintain ADA compliance under the Stafford Act, FEMA's Public Assistance Program rules, and if you close an ADA accessible ramp, FEMA can and will demand repayment funds or deny future claims. This is serious stuff. Very serious stuff. and it's not controlled by us, okay? Because FEMA funded past rebuilds, Hurricanes Michael, Nicole, et cetera, right? It's going to put the city at significant risk. Does it help more people?
Hey, Rich, I'm going to let you finish your last sentence, and then,
Can I have 4 more points.
oh, I'm sorry,
Okay, well,
if you have one more sentence. you
does
want-
it help more people? No. There's 500 units closer to Tuscany than there are St. Kitts. It doesn't.
Thank
Does it?
you.
Okay.
Thank you, Rich.
Thank you so much for listening.
So now, so we've gone through the presentation, we've asked any questions that we have of our community service director. So now what I want to do is have an open dialogue on your feelings. Would you like to start, Commissioner?
I was going to make a motion. Are you ready for a motion?
No.
I don't have any, I don't have anything else to say.
Okay, all right, do you have anything else?
You know, I don't think so. I think
Vice Mayor, anything else? No. Okay. All right, one of the things that I want to talk about too is thank you again for reaching out to us. We appreciate it, but I want you to remember too, we don't have people only south of Tuscany and St. Kitts. I was in the grocery store talking to 2 people that are in the 31 homes right there that have grandchildren, that they want wagons and strollers access, and I actually ran into another one that had issues walking too. So remember, when we're talking, we're gonna have to go one building north. That is Daytona Beach Shores in those 31 homes. So we owe it to them too when we say, well, you're gonna have to walk one building north. I also had a conversation with someone on the west side. Now, they are not Daytona Beach Shores residents, but my heart goes out to anyone that wants access. So again, those people there, that it would be closer for the St. Kitts. I just want to bring that out there and make sure we know that. So if there's no further discussion, the only thing I have right now is Attorney Waters. I know we did our due diligence. I felt like the city manager has had several conversations with you. Do you happen to know the answer right now that is it mandatory that we have ADA ramps?
I think you have to defer to staff. I know there's ADA ramps to the north and the south. Is that what I'm understanding?
Well, there is, okay, or the plans will be along, we've lost a lot of those along the way. So in speaking with Jessica Fentress, our coastal director, construction will start at Frank Rendon Park at the end of July. So there will be an ADA ramp there, and then we have one at Van Avenue. So, Stuart, does that suffice for what we need to have?
Yes, Madam Mayor. So legal counsel has told us at least 3 times that if there is an existing piece of infrastructure that is ADA compliant, that if the city were to rebuild that infrastructure or asset, that it would have to meet ADA standards.
Okay.
Yes, that's what we've been told.
Okay, my question is, do we need, one of the options here was to do nothing. So is that legally what we can do, is do nothing, not have anything at Tuscany or at St. Kitts?
2005 agreement, yes.
Okay. No, I'm sorry, I might not be saying it right. So I guess I want, so ADA compliance.
Yeah,
Okay. So if there was no ADA ramp at St. Kitts or at Tuscany, once it's rebuilt at Frank Rendon, does that suffice, or does?
That is my understanding, but you want to, so we have the building official here who's actually the administrator for the Americans with Disabilities Act.
Steve, if you could come up, I just want to make sure that we're getting the correct information. So again, state your title, Steve.
I'm Steve Edmonds. I'm the building official for the city of Daytona Beach Shores. I've been here 21 years. On this particular situation, because I am the one that's legally responsible for it as a building code administrator, I called the state of Florida ADA, asked them the question. They refused to answer me because it was a legal question that they directed me to actually the federal government. I actually made a call to them as well. They said if we build an ADA ramp, if we build anything back there, it has to be ADA, but there is no requirement that we have to put it back.
So we do not.
And that's from the federal government, so.
Okay.
Who is responsible for ADA?
That is correct, Madam Mayor. And we have spoken about this at the firm, extensively with staff and your.
So again, I'm just trying to give you all the correct information. I don't want incorrect information. So, again, we have a wonderful staff that does not stop when they get an answer until they find out the correct answer. So again, talking about fiscal responsibility, yes, that is very important to us. I don't know anything about the trash cans that we have out there. I know that after a certain amount, we do have to put that out and try to get the cheapest price we can at the best quality. We don't always go with the cheapest. So, being fiscally responsible, and from the people that I've heard from, the majority are saying we need an ADA ramp. So, I can't make a motion, so I'm going to ask one of our commissioners to make a motion. If you want to go on to that last presentation, I would like you to, to hit the targets that we have there on the decision tree. So if you would like to do a motion.
Yeah, I'd just like to make a motion that we follow the staff recommendation.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion, any other discussion, any other questions that we have? Okay, if not, Sherry, can you take a vote, please? Okay, that passed 4-0. The only other thing, thank you, so you will have your ADA ramp, everyone that reached out to us. Stuart, Kurt, the only thing I'd like you to do, in case something happens at the, with the DEP permit, I'd like us to go back and try to negotiate if Tuscany decides that they want to rebuild that ramp there, that we go into negotiations to see if there's anything we can do financially to help them out, please. Absolutely. All right, thank you. Okay, all right, we are going to move on to the next topic now, okay, and that is Community Service Department Monthly Report. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Ordinance 2025-07, towing and prohibition of overnight parking on city properties. Attorney Waters, can you, I'll wait until everybody leaves.
I'll be right back.
Okay. We're going to take a 5-minute recess. Thank you.
I get it. If I live in
Agenda memorandum.
Hi, Deb. How are you? Thank you for being with us. Well, you know what? Okay, I see.
Here we go. Rotation mode, current page, last page.
Oh, my hand. How are you? Yeah, okay, yeah.
Completely locked out.
It's all within this,
Oh, okay, so were you able to look up the, okay.
That's right.
runs the ship.
Doing good, how are you?
Just talking.
Steve, you get to that? It opened. It opened. See.
There's no, so I want to.
The desktop is going to.
So I want to talk in case it doesn't happen. Yeah, right.
Saw you up there.
Okay, well, I can go back to that.
Are you trying to be here on the 15th?
A little bit.
And my thank, oh, great. Anyone you?
It'd be easier to reboot your computer.
I got two. I'm gonna try to get them.
You good, brother?
Good. How you guys doing?
Good.
Great, thanks.
Joey says, did you get a picture? Prove that you're there. And I'm like, nobody wants a picture of me.
Do you know Debbie Phillips?
How are you?
Probably.
Do you know Debbie Phillips?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, I see you all the time on Facebook.
It's top.
All levels. So.
Just reboot it.
I normally see him
It's an easy task for you, I know.
Here's perfect.
like a moose.
Vice Mayor Carr, probably.
No. You should join us, man. I mean, you just repeated. 68. Yeah, you should join us. I'm telling you.
Sure, I'll see you up.
By the way, these guys.
No, I went into this agenda item that had a memorandum. I can't get back to the itinerary, whatever.
For my committee.
Schedule.
Excellent.
Gloria, I didn't mean to interrupt, I apologize. Somewhat rude.
Represent you from, no, seriously. I really.
The Curtis should reboot, and I says, yeah, I got 2 pairs at home. What do you want? Really? We're both black, actually.
I don't make any decision. I don't make any.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah. That's the way it's working. I always look over and check with him before his eyes open. I can tell by his eyes when he's good.
Yes, absolutely, but I have a.
Thanks. You've been doing them push-ups. If you know that doctor told you to stay away from
Went to
them.
incline bench.
Oh, did you? Okay.
I'm just asking.
That's legal, right? That's legal, of course.
But we don't have one until June.
You gotta redo everything. Set your password.
Yeah.
Back in, log back in. That should be fine. I'm gonna check for other stuff.
Thank you, sir. I was just telling him what how he does for us. I know.
Thinks she wants to bring.
She better not.
Hey, Chuck. How are you? How are you? I saw you back there. Yeah. I was giving you the eye. You were looking at me.
Hi, Chuck. How you doing, brother? Nice to see you.
What trouble are you causing tonight? Thanks.
Good.
That's good.
Well, I was never actually. I had to come back. I was in North Carolina for about a week.
Besides, I know you'd been upset.
Yeah, 55 degree weather all day long. It was just breathtaking.
Chuck, how are you?
I did all that. My buddy has a, my buddy, I've been doing it for years. My buddy has a place right outside of Waynesville, Jimmy Curry. And so I left one of my bikes there. I left one of his bikes there. So we fly out of Sanford, 1 hour flight, get an Uber to his house, and then we fire up the bikes. We're on the Blue Ridge in 10 minutes.
Did you just come back?
Yeah, just got back yesterday.
Nice. Yeah, I know. I'm going as soon as Sandy's service.
55 to 60 degrees. It rained a little bit. We danced the rain, and it was just beautiful.
All right, there you go. Doing it right.
We're having dinner. Good.
You guys are you're gonna be eating at 10 o'clock tonight.
No, we'll be out of here.
Thank you, Chris.
I was there.
You're not able to go into the light.
He said, well,
Hey, Eric. How you doing, brother?
wrong. Information. First of all,
I haven't seen you at Publix, but I ask for you all the time. You doing all right?
good. They tied that structure into their thing. I said, they do. He goes, we don't do it anymore. So now, if you put that pole in,
Okay. Dalton's stealing all your time.
look at it,
I don't know.
cut it off, the
Good to see you. You doing all right?
but it's remarked. So this
Yeah, my friend.
You guys are liable for that. Well, we were cutting it off because it was your structure. We didn't put in there. So I said,
At least you're able to bring them to her.
way I had.
Easy, right? I would for you.
Hey, the guy from Samsula, I said, they're liable. We'll go with them or whatever. But at the end of the day, that way I had this. This is what happened.
Because these guys were lying.
Well, the one guy sent an email.
Why are you They won't let you do that? So it's not me being...
No, because there's been a few people that have that issue.
Okay, so, oh my gosh, you have to, then I'm not gonna go into the agenda items. He comes up to me, I got this thing marked up. I explained it to her, she goes, she's got her 200,000. That's my thinking.
So that's the thing,
This guy got her. Yeah, I said the curve. But anyway. I don't have to go into, because I reviewed them before I got here, so I'll just go back to the original, just the itinerary, so to speak. That's so odd.
You know what? I'm out of it with the...
It's just a communication thing. You have to close it.
Nice function.
If I lived in Tufton. Control tab.
Control tab.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I'm trying every other combination.
Thank you.
We need a little sticker right here that says Control Tab.
$1 in the offer. My cheat sheet right here.
That's right, Control Tab.
No, we're not paying nothing.
Right. That's exactly what happened.
Telephone.
You're talking about control tab.
Yeah, it's not a password, thank goodness, but thank you.
Other people.
Absolutely. So that guy's like, you're just gonna leave this thing. We don't know yet.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, he does.
We love it.
Yeah. So how's it going?
Good, thank you. We never get DEP. He says that's the best dream.
Yeah, you get to really see your city,
Yes.
staff, money, good work, good work.
It was funny because I said to check, my only question was, can't they do cement? And I,
I mean, we would love to do, trust me, we would love to do, so would the county, the county pulls their hair out. They're in the same page.
My last guy was full of shit. I could take
I remember DEP, not, like they have to have 12 grams. They don't like that. They have 3 grams. I think they're gonna allow them.
Well, he's another one missing, and he lives in this area.
On the beach.
Sure. Next time, do a better job with the better pictures.
None of this.
You know, I know there were a lot of questions from up here.
Storm. You do walkovers. They're sitting out offshore.
That was
And they're as,
just so you know, I don't take credit for the representation.
concrete doesn't usually go out very far.
Ross help?
City manager?
Usually there and can be removed.
Lori help? Why, those people, they can't.
I don't know what you're reading, you're sitting at the
Hey, Mayor, I went to most of there's nobody here.
So much for me saying.
Now we're on the hook for $400,000.
Well done. Well done.
Hey, listen, just do the right thing. That's all we have to do.
FEMA may or may not show up. So, my
Okay, we're calling the meeting back to order, still May 6th, 2025, and we are going to move on to ordinance B, 2025-07. Attorney Waters, can you read that for us, please?
Certainly, Madam Mayor, this is ordinance 2025-07, an ordinance of the City of Daytona Beach Shores, Florida, relating to the prohibition of overnight parking on city-owned property. Chapter 22, Parking Regulations, amending Section 22-22, Conditions Permitting Impoundment, and establishing Section 22-73, Overnight Parking on City-Owned Property, providing for legislative findings and intent, providing for amendments and enactment, providing for conflicts, providing for codification, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. And Madam Mayor, that was the first reading.
Thank you. Director Cruz?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Commissioners, Stuart Cruz, Community Service Director. As the City Attorney just read in the short title of this ordinance, 2025-07, if this ordinance is adopted, it will essentially outlaw overnight parking on city-owned property or city-controlled properties
for the parking of vehicles that have not received prior city authorization or permission. And it would also allow for those vehicles to be towed. And that's in essence is what this ordinance is all about. We have been having a lot of issues with different folks leaving their vehicles overnight, specifically here at the community center. And whenever there is an event or there's a rental or something major going on in the city, there's a shortage of parking, and it creates a huge nuisance and issue for the city staff and for the people who have actually paid to utilize the facilities. So staff is recommending approval. If there's any questions, I'll be happy to take those, and I'm sure the chief would want to tag team as well.
Have we reached out? Have we been able to find out who the owners are those?
Madam Mayor, in the past, when we have had vehicles left for an extended period of time, we reached out and made contact. Some have complied and moved their vehicle along. Others have simply moved them to another part of the parking lot. And without this ordinance, we have no way of removing those vehicles.
Okay, great. Okay, do I hear a motion to accept 2025-07?
I'll also move, but I have a question for Stuart. It has nothing to do with I like the motion. I think it's a great idea. Will the towing company pay for the installation of the signs, or are they going to require the city to do it?
No, the city would do it.
Well, why wouldn't they? They're the ones who are going to make the money.
Well, I mean, that's something that we can.
Maybe our city manager can negotiate a deal. No, the reason why is I've owned properties before on A1A, and I've always convinced the towing company to install the signs pursuant to the Florida statute, because they're the ones who are going to enjoy the revenue.
But we can certainly entertain that.
Just a suggestion.
Thank you for being fiscally responsible, Vice Mayor.
Girl, I do my best. No, it doesn't need to be.
I think I had a motion, and do I have a second?
I'll second. I have one last question also. How long do you wait before you have these vehicles towed?
So we would expect to have an education period. There are some folks that would not be aware that the ordinance had kicked in yet. So we would wait till we had a nuisance vehicle. Our officers would be using discretion in those cases. There's also a part of the ordinance that allows for the city manager to give permission and for that permission to be on the dashboard.
Yeah, and the reason I ask that, because I know in our subdivision with limited parking, and when we get to Christmas time, they have asked me, and we send them up there to just park for the day, 24 hours or something like that. It'd be, so.
Yes, Commissioner, there's no specific exemption or time frame. It's overnight. And again, folks come to City Hall, request permission. They've been doing this for years. It's granted by the city manager or his designee, and we will have that written permission placed on the dashboards.
Correct. There's already a process. If somebody has a situation in which their building is being, their garage is being resurfaced or whatever have you, or there's, something going on, they have the ability to make an application to the city manager, and the city manager is going to look at the overall situation, whether there's a need, whether there's activities going on that would conflict with the additional parking. He would look at it holistically and then provide either approval or no approval. If the approval is granted, then a tag would be provided to that particular user, and they would have to visibly have it shown visibly on their dashboard or on their rearview mirror.
Are we still granting spaces to, is it called Oceans West, for?
Yes, we are, but there's a monthly renewal of sorts, So I believe it's the CAM for the condo has to get with, I believe it's Gwen and Nancy Maddox, since she has a better understanding of this facility than I ever will,
Okay.
And essentially ensure that there's no conflict in terms of usage at that time.
Okay. Did we have a motion, Sherry? Okay.
I'll second.
Okay. Can you take the vote, please? And that passed 4-0. Thank you. Okay, next we're going to move on to item C, and this is the Resolution 2025-05, supporting and accepting the Volusia County Local Mitigation Strategy Plan and Floodplain Management Plan. And is this something that we do every year, Stuart?
Every 4 to 5 years, Madam Mayor.
Okay.
And it's not just the city of Daytona Beach Shores, it's all those who are part of the multi-jurisdictional Volusia County Local Mitigation Strategy.
Okay, do you have Do you read, I'm sorry, do you read a resolution?
Yes, I can read the short title, Madam Mayor. This is resolution number 2025-05, a resolution of the City of Daytona Beach Shores, Volusia County, Florida, in support of the 2025 Volusia County Local Mitigation Strategy Plan, adopting the plan, including the flood warning plan, Appendix A, providing for an effective date, and that is the one and only reading, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As you mentioned earlier, this is something that we do every 4 to 5 years. All the county, all the local governments, including the county, that participate in this interlocal, multi-jurisdictional local mitigation plan, strategy plan, and the Volusia County Integrated Floodplain Management Plan. This is something that we do every so often. What happens is local governments that are part of the community rating system and the National Flood Insurance Program get credit, and that credit or score essentially reduces the premiums that are paid by our property owners on flood insurance. So that's one thing. And the other thing that benefits us by accepting and supporting this is that we adopt policies that essentially can save property and lives. And so that's the overall and overarching reason behind adopting these and supporting these two plans.
Okay, thank you. Do you hear a motion to accept this resolution?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Okay, any further discussion? If not, Sherry, can you take a vote? And this passed 4-0. Okay, next we are going to go on to item D, appointment of a member to the Volusia County Growth Management Commission. And I see our current member up here. Thank you for being here, Larry.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Commissioners, again. Mr. Larry Saffer, who is our current VGMC representative, the Volusia Growth Management Commission, for those of you in the audience who are not familiar with it, the Volusia Growth Management Commission is a commission that is actually established by the Volusia County Code of Charter, I believe it is, and it essentially is an entity that reviews comprehensive plans from all local governments, including the county, to ensure that they're consistent with each other whenever there's a comp plan amendment. So typically, because we're a chartered county, every comprehensive plan amendment that we do in the city has to go to VGMC, no matter how small or big it is, for them to ensure that we're not negatively impacting Port Orange or Ponce Inlet or the county itself, and vice versa. They have to do the same thing. And so they have their staff that actually reviews every single comp plan. And so on occasion, whenever the staff or a local government might feel that a particular application for a comp plan amendment is going to negatively impact them, there could be a call for a public hearing. And at that public hearing, Mr. Saffer, whomever the city decides to appoint to this position, along with their cohorts for the rest of the county, they would get together and they would essentially provide a vote on that comprehensive plan amendment to say yea or nay. In addition to that, I know that Mr. Saffer and others have served on special subcommittees that the VGMC has in terms of their rules and the policies and their operating procedures and whatnot. In your packet, you'll see a recommendation from the VGMC that essentially is making a request to the commission to reappoint him for another 4-year term. I believe Mr. Saffer initiated or was appointed initially in 2016, and so his term would be up in June of this year. And ultimately, it's up to the city commission to decide whether or not they want to reappoint him or not.
Okay, Mr. Saffer, can you come up a minute?
I sure can. And he has declared interest to be reappointed.
That's what I was going to say. I'm sure if you're here tonight, you're declaring interest. But for those of you that don't know Mr. Saffer, before we went to a special magistrate, Mr. Saffer was the chair of our board, the Code Enforcement Board, for many, many years and did a wonderful job. So I'm very, very glad to see that you're still serving the city in this capacity. And it is something you're interested in doing for the next 4 years? Great. Okay. Do I hear a motion?
I so move.
Second. Any discussion? If not, Sherry, can you take the vote, please? And I'm sure this is going to pass 4-0. Thank you, Mr. Saffer, for bringing this to our community. We're glad to have you. Okay, next, we're going to move on to ordinance 2025-05. This is a comprehensive plan for future land use map. Attorney Waters, can you read this for us, please?
Certainly, this is ordinance number 2025-05, an ordinance of the City of Daytona Beach Shores, Volusia County, Florida, relating to comprehensive planning, amending the City of Daytona Beach Shores Comprehensive Plan, amending Chapter 1, Future Land Use Element, by amending map L-4 entitled Generalized Future Land Use Map 2030, assigning the residential low-intensity future land use designation to annex single-family residential property generally located at 3836 South Atlantic Avenue, tax parcel ID number 630205070190, providing for implementing actions, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, providing for non-codification, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you, Attorney. Gwen?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Commissioners, Gwen Herstein, City Planner. This property was recently annexed into the city. That was April 1st. This is the first reading for ordinance 2025-05, which will add a future land use of residential low intensity to the city's future land use map. The site location is 2.5 miles south of our current location, which takes about 6 minutes to drive. Here's an aerial view and a street view of the property. This is a depiction of the property and the surrounding area if the residential low-intensity future land use is assigned through this ordinance. All public notice and statutory requirements have been met. Staff reviews and analyses have been submitted for the record. Planning and Zoning Board recommended approval of ordinance 2025-05 on April 15th. Staff is recommending approval of this ordinance as presented, but I would also like to point out that Mr. Coughing was able to join us tonight, and I think he may have been surprised that he had to sit for 2 hours before we got to meet him, so I would like to recognize that he's here tonight.
Thank you. Thank you. Welcome to the Shores. We're very glad to have you. You saw government in action, right? This is your government. You can come and speak to us, and so thank you. We're welcome to have you here in the Shores. Okay, do I hear an approval for ordinance 2025-05?
I so move.
Thank you. Second?
A second.
Thank you. Any questions? Any comment? Okay, if not, Sherry, take that vote, please. Sherry, and if you could come over on. How I got here. Chris?
Can get a break.
Michael have no problem so far. He said,
Word of the night is Control Tab.
Control tab.
I just learned that.
Tab, all right. Okay, see if that went through, Jerry.
He said Control Tab.
All this
Okay, and it passed 4-0. Thank you. Next, we're going to go on, and this is all a process, correct? When we pick something in, we have to do the readings. All right, so this is the quasi judicial hearing, and Sherry, will you be swearing people in, or will?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Anyone who wishes to speak on this item tonight, please stand and raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth during tonight's hearing?
Okay, and was there anyone on the commission that had any prior speaking with anyone on this ordinance?
No.
Thank you. Okay. Gwen?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Commissioners. Gwen Herstein, City Planner. This property again is 3836 South Atlantic Avenue, and it was recently annexed into the city. Ordinance number 2025-04 will assign RSF2, Urban Single Family Residential Detached District, to this property. We will assign that zoning from what they had while in Volusia County, which was R9, Urban Single Family Residential District, and those are compatible. Again, aerial views of the property and a shot from South Atlantic. This is a map showing without the rezoning assigned, and then a map showing how the area will look once this is rezoned, if this is approved. And again, all public notice requirements have been met, and staff review and analyses have been submitted for the record. Planning and Zoning Board approved this ordinance on April 14th of this year, and staff recommends approval of this ordinance as presented.
And I'm sorry, Attorney Waters, I don't think I had you read the ordinance, so can you please read it for us?
Thank you very much. This is ordinance number 2025-04, an ordinance of the City of Daytona Beach Shores, Volusia County, Florida, assigning RSF-2 urban single-family residential detached district zoning classification to annex single-family residential property generally located at 3836 South Atlantic Avenue, tax parcel ID 630205070190, providing modification of the official zoning map, providing for implementing administrative actions, providing for non-codification, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you, Attorney Waters. Do I hear a motion to accept ordinance 2025-04?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. A second?
I'll second.
All right, any discussion? Sherry, can you take a roll, please?
Wait, let her switch it back.
Control tab.
Thank you. And it passed 4-0. Attorney Waters, do you have anything for us this evening?
It's always a pleasure to be here with you, Madam Mayor. Thank you for having me.
City Manager, what do you have for us this evening?
I have nothing, but I would like to just say thank you to Stuart. I know he's put in countless hours and fielded countless, shall I say, suggestions on the PowerPoint from me. So, Stuart, thank you for all your hard work, and all the staff had input throughout this process. So, fantastic staff.
Stuart, so when people say, I had this ready to say, I had this ready to say, and when they get up there and say, you did such a thorough job that they didn't have to anything to say, or they changed what they were going to say, I think that's an indication of what a great job you did. So thank you so much.
Madam Mayor, I just wanted to share that it was indeed a team effort, as the city manager said. You know, Lori, the city manager, Steve, they all participated and helped to produce the product that you saw tonight. So it was a team effort.
Well, great. That's great to give them credit. City Manager, I do have a question. You and I had an earlier conversation today about my frustration about those lights on A1A, and you were going to follow up with someone, and then Kurt and I met a gentleman yesterday from FDOT that I was going to reach out to. Do we have any additional information?
I did reach out, did speak with my contact there who kind of runs our area, and I believe the phrase was, I'll try to light a fire on some people, but they did say the supplies are the issue. So as you're aware, what we're talking about is the crosswalks where one side works, one side doesn't.
Or it stays on all the time, or it doesn't?
Yeah. So they are aware of it, and we're in their queue, but I hate to say it's a state agency, but it's a state agency.
Okay. I think I might make a follow-up call tomorrow to the gentleman we just met. So anyway, so I know almost everyone left. I want you to know that we work on issues like this when we know about them. We can only do what they tell us they're going to do. It's a state road. First it was parks, and then it was this and that. But all of us up here have a real concern about people get accustomed to using those crosswalks when the lights don't work. And then we have, the people on the streets that are used to not stopping if they don't see the light. So I'm really, really concerned about it. So Kurt and I are going to work on that, and we got another contact yesterday that we'll use to the best of our ability. So, any other questions for our city manager? Okay, if not, we're down to commission comments. First of all, and I'll go back, but I want to say thank you so much for your patience today and with this issue that we had with everyone here in really listening to each and every one of them. I looked over and we were intently taking in what they had to say. So I thank you for your attention to them. I'm sure that was greatly appreciated. But Commissioner Dubinsky, do you have anything for us?
No, Stuart did a great job. I thought that was very interesting. That's all.
Commissioner Card? Okay. Vice Mayor?
I echo Commissioner Dubinsky's comments. The staff did a great job. Makes our job much easier and more, straightforward. It's common sense. I mean, we saw the pros and cons. We saw the consequences of making decision A, decision B, or decision C. And I'm really proud of our city staff and glad to be a part of the process because the citizens, some people had a lot more passion, a lot more angst about it, but hopefully in the end they'll realize we did the best thing to be fiscally responsible, but in the best interest of the city in its totality.
That's right. I like that last word. It was always, well, you have to walk up this much. You have to do this, do that. No, we have people that are north of there that are going to walk that way too. So, and those are our residents just the same. So thank you for using
I think
that.
everybody.
Okay, what I'm going to go over now is some of our May events. So tomorrow is Coffee with the Mayor, May 7th at 10 o'clock in the Shores Community Center. And Tammy Malfers from Volusia County Beach Safety Director, our very own Tammy, will be there tomorrow. So I think it'll be a great day. Please try and join that. And we're going to have, as we do, as you know, every year, Armed Forces is the one day that we celebrate our armed forces, our veterans, our current active. So that will be May 17th at 10 a.m. right back here in Veterans Park. We're going to have Colonel Shannon Da Silva. She is from Space Delta 10 Commander at Patrick Space Force. Nancy Maddox, thank you very much for getting her for us. As you know, we added the 6th flag, and we've never had anyone really speak from us, so thank you for obtaining her. We're going to have the United States Army 3rd Infantry Division Quartet. And then our concert this month will be on May 23rd from 6:30 to 8:30, and that will be Taylor Road Band on that date. So I do not see that we had any other audience comments. Is there anybody else? Oh, I'm sorry, we do have one speaker.
No, ma'am.
No. Okay, no speaker.
Madam Mayor, I think staff has something.
Can I just add, for your Coffee with the Mayor tomorrow, the Cracked Egg is being very generous and is donating and bringing their fritters.
That's right, that's wonderful. Have you ever had cracked egg fritters? Now, I want you to come because it's with me, not for those fritters, but if you come, yes, that's right. We'll make sure, if you do go into cracked egg and you see Chris or Kevin, please, if you can't make it tomorrow, please thank them for that. That's greatly appreciated. Okay, and then items for the next agenda. Okay, right now, we do not have any. I'm sure we'll have plenty by then.